Today, we'll tell you about 5 American women who went missing in Mexico. These real stories are full of mystery and unanswered questions. Each woman vanished without a known reason, leaving behind family and friends desperate for answers. What happened to them? Join us as we dive into these haunting cases. Stay tuned and learn the chilling details of their disappearances. It was April 6, 2023, in Nuevo Leon, Mexico. Beyonce Amaya Cortez, a 20-year-old woman from Mission, Texas, was visiting her relatives during the Easter holidays. She had been enjoying her time, reconnecting with family and catching up with friends. Little did she know, this trip would be her last. Beyonce had planned to return home to Texas on April 10th. She was known for staying in close contact with her family, especially her mother, whom she frequently texted. On April 6th at 1 a.m., she sent her mother a message that contained only heart emojis. This would be her final message. Her mother responded at 2 a.m., but the message never went through. Concerned, Beyonce's family reported her missing later that day. Beyonce's friends who had been with her that night returned home with conflicting stories. Some said she never returned from Montemorelos, while others claimed she asked to be dropped off on a dark street. The family grew increasingly worried as they tried to piece together what happened. On April 11th, Mexican authorities confirmed the tragic discovery of Beyonce's body on a farm near her relative's residence in El Verde, General Bravo. She had suffered severe injuries to her skull, spinal cord, and thorax. The Nuevo Leon prosecutor's office reported that she had died from a blow to the head. Her half-brother identified her body based on her clothing and physical characteristics, though DNA tests were still pending at that time. Days before the discovery, Beyonce's family had organized a march in China Square, the place where she was last seen, hoping to find clues about her whereabouts. Despite their efforts, her fate had already been sealed. The investigation revealed more disturbing details. According to the mayor of China, Nuevo Leon, Raul Car Vazquez, Beyonce had been with a young man on the night of her death. They were driving when she fell out of the speeding car. The young man reportedly tried to help her by taking her to a clinic, but he couldn't find anyone to treat her. Panicking, he left her body at the farm where it was later found. The authorities issued arrest warrants and searched the homes of the last known people to see her alive. Each person had a different story, adding to the mystery of her final hours. Some friends claimed they left her on a dark street, while others were unsure of her whereabouts. The investigation was complicated by these conflicting accounts, leaving many questions unanswered. Beyonce's family was devastated by the loss. They created a GoFundMe campaign to cover the costs of transporting her body back to Texas and paying for her funeral services. Her sister, Ethna Amaya Cortez, shared the campaign on social media, urging people to donate and help give Beyonce the send-off she deserved. By April 17th, the campaign had raised $12,139 from 294 donors. This tragic case has left many wondering about the circumstances of Beyonce's death. How did she end up falling out of the car? Why did her friends give conflicting stories? What really happened in the hours leading up to her death? It was March 25th, 2023, when 17-year-old Shelby Lynn Dwyer left Des Moines, Washington, on a road trip to Mexico. She was a vibrant young woman full of life and eager to explore the world. She assured her mother, Stacy Hurt, that she would be gone for only a few days. Shelby was traveling with someone she trusted, and initially everything seemed fine. She called and sent pictures of her trip, showing her mother that she was safe and having fun. But on March 29th, 2023, the communication abruptly stopped. Shelby was last heard from when she was in Guamuchil, a city in the Mexican state of Sinaloa. After 2 days, her phone stopped pinging. Stacy's concern grew as days turned into weeks without any word from her daughter. Shelby's parents reported her missing shortly after her disappearance, and local authorities began their search. Sinaloa is a region plagued by drug cartel violence. The U.S. State Department had issued a do not travel warning for Sinaloa, citing widespread violent crime and kidnapping risks. Despite these warnings, Shelby went into this dangerous territory, unaware of the potential dangers that lay ahead. On March 31, 2023, Shelby was last seen alive in a stationery store and internet cafe in Salvador, Alvarado, a town in Sinaloa. The Mexican authorities issued an urgent Amber Alert for the missing American teenager, fearing that she may have fallen victim to a crime. The Sinaloa State Prosecutor's Office stated that her safety was at risk and that she could be in grave danger. Shelby is described as being 5 feet tall with several distinctive tattoos, including doves and praying hands on her upper left arm, a rose on her right thumb, a small heart on her middle finger, the word bendita, Spanish for blessed, on her lower right arm, and the word mordem, Spanish for bite me, on her buttocks. These unique markings make her easily identifiable, yet no concrete leads have emerged. The initial investigation revealed that Shelby had traveled to Tijuana, Mexico, likely by car. From there, she took a flight to Guadalajara and then to Culiacan, Sinaloa. The journey seemed well planned, but something went terribly wrong after she reached Guamuchil. The area she was last seen in is notorious for being controlled by the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful and violent criminal organizations in Mexico. As the days turned into months, the search for Shelby became more desperate. The FBI stepped in to assist local authorities, hoping to bring Shelby back home safely. Supervisory Special Agent Steve Viano expressed concerns regarding her whereabouts, noting the frequent travel advisories for Americans in the region. Despite the FBI's involvement and collaboration with Mexican authorities, Shelby remains missing. Stacy Hurt has been relentless in her search for her daughter. She has been pleading for any information about Shelby's whereabouts, hoping that someone, somewhere, knows something that could help bring her back. "Where's my little girl?" she asked in a tearful plea. Stacy refuses to give up hope, believing that Shelby is still out there waiting to be found. The FBI announced a $5,000 reward for any information leading to Shelby's whereabouts. They have been spreading awareness and gathering information, hoping that this incentive might encourage someone to come forward. Despite the extensive search efforts, there have been no significant leads. Shelby's disappearance shows the dangers young travelers face in cartel-dominated areas. Sinaloa is not a popular tourist destination for a reason. The presence of powerful criminal organizations makes it a hazardous place for anyone, especially young and vulnerable travelers like Shelby. The risks are high, and the consequences can be devastating. Stacy's determination to find her daughter is unwavering. She believes that someone must know something and urges anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. "I love you. Keep strong, little girl," she said in a message to Shelby. "You're going to come home, I promise you. Just be strong." The case of Shelby Lynn Dwyer remains open, and the search continues. Her family, friends, and law enforcement agencies are doing everything they can to find her. The hope is that Shelby will be found safe and sound, and that her story will serve as a warning for others. It was February 9, 2023, in Pueblo Nuevo, Colima, Mexico. Maria del Carmen Lopez, a 63-year-old dual U.S.-Mexico citizen, was tending to her garden. She lived a peaceful life, splitting her time between her retirement home in Colima and Southern California, where her children and grandchildren resided. On this day, however, her life took a horrifying turn. Around noon, as Maria was watering her plants, a white van pulled up to her home. 3 masked men jumped out, leaving the driver behind. They rushed towards Maria, who tried to resist, shouting, "I am not going with you." Neighbors later recalled seeing her struggle, falling to the ground in an attempt to escape. The men, however, overpowered her and forced her into the van, which sped off, leaving the quiet neighborhood in shock. News of Maria's kidnapping quickly spread. Her family in Southern California was notified within hours. The initial response from local authorities was swift, with federal agents joining the investigation almost immediately. The FBI also got involved, offering a $20,000 reward for any information leading to Maria's safe return. The very next day, Maria's family received a chilling phone call from the kidnappers. They provided a proof-of-life audio recording in which Maria, clearly distressed, pleaded for her life. "Please hurry. Act quickly, my children, and give them what they want. My life depends on it," she said, naming a few of her children in the recording. The kidnappers demanded a ransom that was far beyond the family's financial means. Despite the initial contact, the kidnappers soon went silent. Weeks turned into months with no further communication. Maria's daughter, Zonia Lopez, held a news conference in Los Angeles, tearfully appealing to President Biden and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador for help. "I implore you to hear my words, to feel my anguish. My family has endured unimaginable pain and suffering, desperately clinging to hope as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months without any sign of my mother's safe return, she said. She urged both governments to use all available resources to rescue her mother. The family believed that Maria was targeted because her children lived in the United States, giving the false impression that they were wealthy. They had been vocal about their frustration with the slow progress of the investigation and the lack of coordination between U.S. and Mexican authorities. Despite their efforts to keep Maria's case in the public eye, including launching an online petition called Justice for Carmen, there were no significant breakthroughs. As time passed, the family continued to print flyers and billboards, hoping to find someone who had seen or heard something. They remained in close contact with the FBI, which had been supportive but constrained by the jurisdictional limitations of working in Mexico. The FBI's request to conduct a deeper investigation in Colima was denied by Mexican officials, adding to the family's frustration. The Lopez family was a large and close-knit one. Maria was a mother of 7, a grandmother of 19, and a great-grandmother of 2. She had a strong bond with her family and was known for her loving and generous nature. Her disappearance left a void that was felt deeply by all who knew her. On Mother's Day, more than a year after Maria's kidnapping, her family gathered to honor her. They put up missing person posters and continued their appeals for help. Elizabeth Lopez, another of Maria's daughters, spoke about the ongoing efforts to bring her mother home. If anybody can go into that website, sign the petition, it takes literally a minute or 2 to sign, but it does make a big difference to us, she said. Despite the lack of new information, the family remained hopeful. They believed that Maria was still alive, and that one day she would be reunited with them. Maria's kidnapping was not an isolated incident. It occurred amid a backdrop of increased violence and instability in several Mexican states, including Colima. The U.S. Department of State had issued do not travel advisories for these regions due to the high risk of crime and kidnapping. This context made Maria's case even more urgent and highlighted the dangers faced by both locals and foreigners in these areas. In every statement and public appearance, Maria's children emphasized the need for a coordinated effort to bring her home. They called for greater transparency and communication from the authorities handling the case. "We miss her with a pain that defies words," Zonia said. "I implore you to take immediate action." It was October 12, 2014, in El Control, a small town near the Texas border west of Matamoros, Mexico. Erica Alvarado Rivera, a 26-year-old mother of 4 from Progreso, Texas, drove her black Jeep Cherokee across the border to visit her father. She was accompanied by her 32-year-old boyfriend, Jose Guadalupe Castaneda Benitez. The visit was meant to be brief as they planned to return to Texas the next day. Erica's brothers, Alex Alvarado, 22, and Jose Angel Alvarado, 21, had also come to El Control, intending to help their sister with the return trip. On October 13th, Erica called her brothers, asking them to bring her Jeep to a roadside restaurant where she and Jose were eating. This was around noon. The brothers arrived shortly after 12:30 p.m., driving Erica's Jeep and a Chevrolet Tahoe. What happened next was shocking and terrifying. Witnesses saw men dressed in police gear, identifying themselves as the Grupo Hercules unit, pushing and hitting Erica and Jose. When Alex and Jose Angel tried to intervene, the men took all 4 of them, along with their vehicles. Witnesses described the armed men as traveling in military-style trucks, yet no one, including the Federal Highway Police present at the scene, stepped in to help. Grupo Hercules, an elite tactical security unit, had been formed by Matamoros city officials to confront crime and high-risk operations. However, rumors and allegations of their involvement in criminal activities were rampant. The unit was known for their aggressive tactics and had been implicated in various incidents of abuse and killings. Erica, Alex, Jose Angel, and Jose disappeared without a trace. Their mother, Raquel Alvarado, began to panic when Erica did not return home. She made frantic calls, first to her daughter's cell phone and then to her ex-husband in Mexico. By the afternoon of October 13th, it was clear that something was terribly wrong. 2 weeks later, on October 29th, the worst fears of the Alvarado family were confirmed. 4 bodies were found east of Matamoros, near where the siblings had disappeared. The bodies were badly decomposed, likely from lying in the hot sun for so long, making identification difficult. The Tamaulipas state prosecutor Ismael Quintanilla Acosta confirmed that the victims' hands and feet had been tied and they had been shot in the head. The bodies were identified based on photographs and clothing descriptions provided by the family. The victims were Erica Alvarado Rivera, Alex Alvarado, Jose Angel Alvarado, and Jose Guadalupe Castaneda Benitez. DNA tests later confirmed their identities. Each of the 4 dead had been shot in the head, and the bodies were burned. The Alvarado family was devastated. Erica had 4 children aged 3 to 9, who were left without their mother. Alex and Jose Angel were scheduled to leave for Missouri as migrant farm workers, but never made the trip. They lived a modest life, dividing their time between their mother's house in Progreso, Texas, and their father's home in Mexico. The news of their brutal deaths shocked the community and beyond. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico acknowledged the reports but declined to provide further information, citing privacy considerations. Tamaulipas State Attorney General Ismael Quintanilla Acosta announced that 9 officers from the Grupo Hercules unit were being questioned in connection with the murders. The Alvarado siblings' case raised serious questions about the role of security forces in Mexico. Grupo Hercules was introduced as a unit with particular skills to confront crime, trained by the state and subjected to background checks. Yet they were now implicated in the murders of 3 American citizens and a Mexican national. Tamaulipas Governor Egidio Torre Cantu vowed to apply the full force of the law and enforce zero tolerance for such crimes. The investigation into the Hercules unit involved questioning not only the 9 officers, but also the unit's director, City Clerk Joe Mariano Vega, and City Public Safety Director Juan Sanchez. However, Matamoros officials remained silent, refusing to comment on the case. For the Alvarado family, the loss was immeasurable. They held a funeral for Erica, Alex, and Jose Angel in El Control, Mexico, where relatives and friends gathered to mourn their tragic deaths. The community was left grappling with the horror of the events and the uncertainty surrounding the involvement of the very forces meant to protect them. It was February 24, 2023, in the small Texas border city of Penitas. Sisters Maritza Trinidad, Perez Rios, 47, and Marina Perez Rios, 48, along with their friend Dora Alicia Cervantes Sayans, 53, were preparing for a trip. They were heading to Montemorelos, a city in Nuevo León State, Mexico, to sell clothes at a flea market. The 3 women, all Mexican nationals living in the U.S., had made this trip several times before without incident. However, this one would be different. The 3 women left Penitas in a green mid-1990s Chevy Silverado. Their drive to Montemorelos was expected to take about 3 hours. As they crossed the border, they were filled with anticipation for a successful day at the market. They were hardworking women, responsible mothers, and devoted friends. This trip was supposed to be another routine venture, but it turned into a nightmare. The last known contact with the women was a phone call between one of the sisters and her husband while they were on the road. The conversation was brief, but everything seemed normal. However, when the husband tried to reach his wife later, his calls went unanswered. Concern grew as hours turned into days without any word from the women. By February 27th, after a weekend of silence, the husband reported the women missing to the Penitas Police Department. Chief Roel Bermea took the report seriously and immediately initiated an investigation. The case was troubling, especially given the recent spike in violence and kidnappings in Mexico. The small-town police department, however, faced limitations in their jurisdiction and resources. As days passed with no news, the FBI joined the investigation, citing their commitment to protecting American people, even those endangered across the border. The news of the disappearance slowly spread, but it did not garner the same level of media attention as another recent incident. Just weeks earlier, 4 Americans had been kidnapped in Matamoros, Mexico, and their ordeal had been widely covered by the press. In contrast, the case of Maritza, Marina, and Dora received minimal coverage. The Mexican authorities also began their search, deploying drones, all-terrain vehicles, and canine units. The Attorney General's office of Nuevo León stated that search operations were being carried out daily. They coordinated with authorities in the neighboring state of Tamaulipas, hoping to find any trace of the women. The search, however, resulted in no significant leads. The families of the missing women were distraught. Ludi Arredondo, a cousin of the Perez sisters, took to social media pleading for help. "We do not have a single piece of news," she wrote. "Please do not leave us alone. My cousins and their friend are workers, responsible mothers of their children, noble, simple women. They are women who went to work. Please, friends, post and share." Despite the efforts of both U.S. and Mexican authorities, the investigation progressed slowly. The lack of clues and the dangerous environment complicated the search. The region was known for cartel activity, and there was growing concern that the women might have fallen victim to such violence. The FBI's involvement brought some hope, but the families were growing increasingly desperate with each passing day. The Texas Department of Public Safety issued a warning to travelers, especially spring breakers, urging them to avoid traveling to Mexico due to the increased danger from cartel violence. Drug cartel violence and other criminal activity represent a significant safety threat to anyone who crosses into Mexico right now, said DPS Director Stephen McCraw. "We have a duty to inform the public about safety, travel risks, and threats." The families of the missing women were left to navigate this complex and dangerous situation largely on their own. They organized search parties, distributed missing person posters, and continued to appeal to the public for any information that might lead to their loved ones. The lack of media attention and the slow response from authorities only added to their frustration and anguish. As the days turned into weeks, the hope for a safe return of Maritza, Marina, and Dora began to fade away. The families continued to hold on to hope, but they were acutely aware of the grim reality they faced. The dangerous region, the lack of clues, and the slow response from authorities all pointed to a challenging and uncertain future.